If you want crazy Titan fights with a ton of destruction, Godzilla King of the Monsters is made for you. If, though, you're looking for a spectacular story, you might be a little disappointed. I've been really looking forward to this movie since the trailer dropped in the summer of 2018 during Comic-Con. I mean, I was just stoked because I didn't know totally what was going on, but I loved it. I loved the trailer. I loved what it showed, and I was super excited. And now the time has come, and the movie Godzilla King of the Monsters picks up 5 years after Godzilla from 2014. Well, go figure, because it's 2019. But in the timeline, they say it's 5 years later. There's a company called Monarch who wants to study the Titans. And then you have the government and the military who just wants to eradicate them and destroy them. Kyle Chandler and Vera Farmiga play scientists, and they are the parents of Millie Bobby Brown's character, but they also lost a child in San Francisco while Godzilla was fighting the Muto, or however you pronounce that. So Kyle Chandler, I mean, he has this deep-seated hatred for Godzilla and for all of the Titans. He wants them just completely eradicated, just done with. Kill them all, make us all happy. Vera Farmiga, though, doesn't quite see eye to eye with him on this. Now, a lot of these shots remind me of Jurassic Park, the very first one. I mean, you have one of the opening scenes where somebody is reaching out to touch one of the Titans for the very first time, and then you get all of this blowback. And that's, you know, when the kid reaches up to touch the Brontosaurus, the Brachiosaurus, whatever it is, and he gets sneezed on. I mean, the same essential type of thing there. You also have a scene where somebody is walking up and one of the Titans opens their eye and it looks at them. I mean, it's very reminiscent of Jurassic Park. I mean, even think about it. You have Godzilla after a successful battle just arching his head and, you know, and roaring off into the sky. And it's kind of like the T-Rex after it battles the velociraptors and destroys everything. At the end, it roars that iconic just sound, and it was so cool to see and so cool to hear. And it's awesome to see in Godzilla also. I half expected Malcolm to show up at some point to be like, you're so busy wondering if you could that you never stop to wonder if you should. The story drags in parts, and then it's also kind of thin and basic in other parts. And I'm being kind of vague because I don't want to give any spoilers away to the story and to what happens, but you have characters that make decisions or that they act in a way that is completely contradictive to what we've been shown of their character up until a certain point. And, you know, or you have some actions that aren't explained very well. And it made the story itself feel just kind of like the afterthought. That really the main purpose of this movie is to watch the Titans go at it. And if that's what it is, I'm all on board because it was a blast to watch. I had fun watching Godzilla and Rodan and Mothra and King Ghidorah go at it. I mean, that is spectacular. It is so much fun to see, and that's really why I went to see the movie. I said, you know, that some parts of the story don't totally make sense, or that they're thin or not very well developed. But even some of the dialogue is that way. I mean, in one of the opening scenes, something happens, and one of the characters are like, "Oh, that could be from somebody from the outside." Wait, what? Where did that even come into play? Why would I think that there's somebody from the outside trying to do something? Because I've not been shown any of that at all. So it doesn't totally make sense. Some of the writing, or maybe it was the editing. Maybe they left out some parts that should have been kept in there to help tell a little bit more of a cohesive story. But once the action starts, you kind of forget about it and you just go along for the ride, because really that's why we're there. Most of the actors do a really good job, but unfortunately they're kind of window dressing. Like, their roles could have been played by anybody because they're just kind of pointless. I mean, they don't really serve a whole lot as a crux or just this pinnacle of the entire narrative going on. I mean, you have your main characters, but then you have a bunch of other people who are just kind of there. I mean, O'Shea Jackson Jr., he's good, but he's not pivotal to it. So it could have been played by anybody. David Strathairn has like 2 lines maybe, and he, again, it's just kind of like a wasted performance. You have these great actors who can do phenomenal things, and then you just kind of toss them in these roles where they're just like, they're not bad to watch, but they're not really serving a purpose either. And again, it's not their performances that are the problem, it's the story surrounding the characters. That's the issue. Like I said, the action is spectacular when it's going on, and that's why we're there. And when you see Godzilla, luckily we get to see a lot more of Godzilla. I mean, he is in the movie a lot, and his level of detail that they put into him is spectacular. He looks real, and that is awesome to watch. I mean, we get to see him in different fight scenes and just in different environments, and every single time he looks spectacular. I mean, down to the scales on him and the way he breathes or his nose. I mean, it just, all of that looks phenomenal. His spikes as they glow and everything. That level of CGI was almost flawless. I didn't see anything wrong with it at all. And my eye especially didn't go like, oh, that's kind of weird or wonky. I think the same goes for Rodan also, that he looks amazing. I mean, he's ugly, but he's cool to look at. And I didn't really know too much about him. And so the mythology that they build up in a very short period of time to show who he is and what he can do, that's spectacular. And Mothra, she is beautiful. Now, some of the time we don't really get to see her. We get to see more of her radioactive aura that's around her, and so you just see this glow type of thing. But then when we do get to see her, ooh, she is awesome. And really, I wanted to see even more of her because of the detail that they put in there. I mean, even just the fine hairs and stuff, you could tell that they really focused on that. King Ghidorah, on the other hand, though, doesn't look as great. I mean, at some points he's awesome, and you get to, especially when it's farther away, and you get to see the full scope of how big he is and what he can do. I mean, that's spectacular. And when he fires his, whatever he fires out of himself, because it's not actually fire. I mean, he shoots like lightning or something out of him. It's really cool. It's just when we get close-ups of the heads, it looks like CGI. I mean, my brain goes, oh, that's not real, which, you know, it takes me out for a moment. And it's unfortunate, especially when you compare it to the other Titans where it doesn't stand out like that. I mean, they look real. Now, King Ghidorah himself, he is spectacular. And there is this scene that involves just like a power plant and then what he does with that power. That was awesome to watch. There are other really cool graphics, especially as scenes move from one location to the next. And there's one in particular, this underwater location, where it makes me want to see the ultimate prequel to this, to where the Titans roamed the earth just as natural beings. And that would be really cool, especially because the glimpses of the mythology that we got, especially visually, I want to see more of that. You can really see how they could tie in other Titan movies. I mean, there's even a lot of verbal references to Kong in Skull Island. And I believe that there is going to be, at some point, a King Kong versus Godzilla movie that'll come out. But it also opens the door for a lot of other Titan movies. Now, I don't totally know how that will work just based on what we saw in Godzilla King of the Monsters, but I am excited for it. You'll want to stay through the credits because there is a post-credit scene, and I don't know exactly where it's going to go after that, but it is fun to watch. There are some definite standouts in the acting. I mean, Bradley Whitford is spectacular. He is very sarcastic, and he's awesome. Kyle Chandler does a really good job. I enjoyed watching him. Same with Ken Watanabe. I mean, he is outstanding as well. Vera Farmiga is pretty good, and so is Millie Bobby Brown. I mean, she's not bad in it. It's just, she doesn't have a lot to do with the story, or at least as things are unfolding. She's key to certain parts, but other than that, she's just kind of there. So all of that to say is that none of the performances were terrible, just some weren't memorable. If you're a fan of Godzilla, then you're definitely going to want to go and check this out. I mean, it is a lot of fun to watch, especially the fights and the destruction. That's spectacular. If, though, you're just a casual fan or you're just looking for some good action, maybe seeing it at a matinee is more your style, because the story itself, like I said, is kind of thin, and you could get a little bored when the action's not going on. There's no sex or nudity, there is some profanity and violence, and of course, a whole lot of destruction. I give Godzilla King of the Monsters 3.5 out of 5 couches. Who is your favorite Titan? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this review, please give it a like. Also, don't forget to share and subscribe. I'm Chris. This is Movies and Munchies. Thanks for couching with me.